Janelle, and Christine. And I have 12 wonderful. Well, my family's on the verge of a huge change. That lifestyle, in fact, it recommends it, and like to reward good behavior. So if you're good with one marriage, they figure you'll be good with two. A big kiss for me. Where's my big kiss? Oh, you've been playing all. How's it going?
Very good.
How was your day?
Very good.
my day was really quite nice.
Good.
So,
Once upon a time, before the headlines, before the breakups, before the bitterness, there was a family, a real family, a husband, 4 wives, a dozen children, and a dream so big it didn't just challenge the rules of love, it redefined them. It wasn't perfect, it wasn't easy, but in those early days, it was theirs. And if you watched back then, you remember the laughter echoing through cluttered living rooms, the smell of dinners cooked for 20, the kids running barefoot across the lawn chasing each other while the adults tried to figure out how to make a plural marriage work in a world built for couples. This is their story, not as the world sees it now, but as it began, the sister-wives story before the cracks, before the betrayals, when love still felt possible. Back then, it wasn't about TV ratings, it was about belief in a principle. In a way of living that most people couldn't understand and maybe didn't want to. Cody was the dreamer, the one with the golden smile and the boundless energy, talking about how love could grow if you let it. Mary was the first chapter of that dream, his high school sweetheart, the one who stood by him before the world even knew his name. Janelle came next, practical and steady, grounding the whirlwind. Then Christine, the heart, the warmth, the one who brought laughter into every room. And then Robin, the newcomer, the change that no one saw coming, not then at least. In those first episodes, you could almost feel the hope radiating off the screen, the way they spoke about each other carefully, lovingly, like handling something fragile but precious. They'd gather for family nights, crammed into living rooms where kids sat on the floor and couches overflowed. There were awkward moments, sure, little frictions over time, money, and space, but in those moments, you believed they'd figure it out. Remember those drives, Cody bouncing between houses, grinning, teasing, trying to keep everyone happy, the wives cooking in their kitchens, their voices drifting in and out as the camera caught stolen smiles and side glances. It was messy, it was chaotic, it was beautiful. If you want to remember what really made this family feel alive, just watch the kids, the way Logan looked out for his younger siblings, the way Aspen helped in the kitchen without being asked. The way Truly's giggles could cut through any tension in the room. The children didn't care about contracts or camera crews, they cared about each other, about birthday cakes baked at midnight, about piling into the car for road trips, singing along to songs no one really knew all the words to. They were the glue, the living proof that somehow, in all its complexity, this family worked. Cody talked about the big picture like it was gospel, one big house, one big kitchen, one family. They dreamed of a place where no one had to feel like a visitor in their own marriage, where the kids could run from one mom's house to another without even knocking, where the wives could share not just a husband, but a life. And in those early years, it didn't feel impossible, it felt close. You could see it in the way they celebrated holidays, in the way Mary and Janelle laughed over old stories, in the way Christine would help Robin with her kids even though they barely knew each other. It was a balancing act, but for a while, the balance held. There was a kind of rhythm to their lives back then, a constant hum of movement and laughter, the sound of doors opening and closing as Cody made his way between homes, the shared meals that felt like events because so many people were gathered around the same table, the quiet moments where one wife would help another without a second thought, and even the kids seemed to know they were part of something rare. The holidays were the clearest example, Christmas trees in multiple living rooms, presents spilling out across floors, Cody moving between houses with the same red and green tie, trying to make every child feel like they were the center of his attention. Birthdays meant handmade cakes and decorations, family members singing just a little off-key but with so much heart that it didn't matter. It was during those celebrations that you could see the genuine affection, the shared belief that despite their differences, they were building something worth protecting. They took road trips in caravans of minivans, stopping at gas stations where kids poured out like a small army, filling the air with chatter and laughter. In the evenings, they'd gather to tell stories, to play games, to watch the kids put on little shows in the living room. Back then, Christine's laugh could light up a whole house, Janelle's calm voice could smooth over brewing tension, Mary's sharp wit could turn an awkward moment into a joke, and Robin's soft tone was still something new that blended into the family's existing melody. There was something pure about those early days, like they all understood that the rest of the world might not accept them, but inside their circle, they were safe. Even when challenges arose, they seemed smaller, easier to handle, because there was still a belief that they could overcome anything together. Cody would talk about building a future where their kids would grow up knowing they were loved by many parents, where every child had more than one home, more than one mother's embrace. The wives spoke about lifting each other up, about sharing not just responsibilities, but joy, about the deep trust it took to live this way. And there were little details that stick in your mind, like the way the kids would weave between the adults' legs when the living rooms were too full, the way someone was always cooking or cleaning, the way laughter spilled over from one home into the next. Those first seasons felt like opening a window into a different way of loving, a way that, for a time, actually seemed to work. The camera would catch them in moments that didn't feel staged, when someone was laughing so hard they wiped tears from their eyes, when a group hug formed out of nowhere, when a child would fall asleep on the couch mid-conversation. They weren't just a family on television, they were a family that genuinely seemed to like being together, and that's what made it so powerful to watch. Looking back now, knowing what would come later, there's a bittersweet edge to remembering these times, but that's what makes them unforgettable. These were the days when everyone still believed in the dream.